Greetings and salutations to our fine podcast audience. Welcome to 3 Peas in a Pod, episode 223.
We made it.
And I failed to do something in our last episode, and I apologize to you, gentlemen, and to the audience. I did not say thank you to you both for holding down the fort while I was gone.
Well, we are happy to do so.
I appreciate
And I'll tell you what reminded me was those episodes started coming out.
Yes.
And I have listened.
Are you listening?
I have now become a podcast listener.
There you go.
For the first time.
Had to hear what we had to say.
Well, I had to check in.
Yeah, I don't blame
That's
you.
right. Holding down the fort.
Because the chances of y'all making fun of me
Did
that's
we?
true.
or
I don't even remember.
or screwing up the questions is very, very high.
That's
Both of those things are very
probably
high.
happen.
Very high.
So I was just checking to make sure that everything was done properly. Although you did not get the greetings and salutations correctly.
That is correct.
But that's all right because that's my thing.
That's your thing.
That's
your thing.
I
That's
think I
my
did
thing.
eventually do it by the final time we filmed.
Did you? Okay, we had that one hasn't
That one
come
hasn't
out
come
yet.
out. I think only 1 or 2 has come out so far.
Yeah, I've heard 2 so far.
Yeah.
But honestly, that greetings and salutations I stole from another podcast,
Wow.
which all good material is stolen.
Yeah.
It is.
in some way.
We just don't
Barely.
always know the source.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
So we ready to do this today? We have a
think so.
very thoughtful question.
That's true.
I think it sounds like somebody. Thought
We
of
will
it.
try to give a thoughtful answer.
Not to say that all questions aren't thought of. That's not what I mean. But
Because all questions are thought of.
they are thought of and thoughtful
And full
in
of
some
thought.
way. But this one, I don't know. Maybe it came out of a previous question we answered. I think we answered a question about evangelism a while back.
We did. We've had
So
a couple of questions about
This one is kind of a follow-up about that.
that. All right.
So I really like this question. So here we go. Can we have equal, genuine friendships with non-Christians, or is it always a manipulative relationship because of the religious motivation behind it?
So I'm guessing this is a person who is, the way it was often, I've heard it said in Christian circles, is to not make people projects.
Yes.
Like that's what it sounds like is behind it. Is if the reason that I'm invested in this person's life is solely because I want to convert them to Christianity, is that
Or Amway.
what?
Amway used to be a thing.
Amway.
Amway or whatever particular product
Sure.
somebody is selling at their house.
Sure. Is that a manipulative relationship?
Yeah.
That's what I hear in the question.
Me
Is
too.
that what you hear as well?
Yeah, I hear somebody who thinks it's probably not a good idea to us to do that. They want to know how to avoid it.
So it's either a person that might have been on the receiving end of what they
Sure.
thought was a manipulative
Maybe.
relationship.
Or they just don't
or
want to be that.
They just don't want to be manipulative and they can't imagine being 2 things, which is genuinely interested in you as a person and also interested in you understanding what I think is important.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I guess that, just a devil's advocate, which I would want to, I guess if the premise of the question is I can't have any motivations with my friends, then I can't recommend a TV show to them.
Sure.
I can't.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or
Yeah.
a political statement or anything else. Although I get maybe the weight of Christianity feels weightier.
Well, and I think
But maybe not to the person who's not a Christian.
maybe. I know that I certainly have heard from people who have walked away from faith. One thing that they felt like is that they were being sent into the world to give a sales pitch to people. That my main job was to build relationships so I could get more people into the group and to do all that kind of thing. So I can see that. And I can certainly see how things that I know on the other end of it are really genuine in their goal to try and invite people into the kingdom of God and invite people into life with God. Certainly, sometimes the messages are conveyed in such a way. So I'll say sometimes those of us who get up on stage, sometimes we misconvey the information in order to try and make it more motivational or try and make it feel like we're building a movement and all this thing's going to be big and it's going to happen. Sometimes it does. I can see how it could feel that way to someone. I could also see how a person could misconstrue what's said and go, oh, that's what it feels like they're saying. So,
well, and I have no doubt in our current world, because I know of families that no longer communicate because of politics.
Sure.
That there's anything that matters really to if something matters greatly to somebody and they try to get you to come to their point of view and you don't
Yeah.
do it, that it feels wrong when they cut you off
Sure.
if you don't convert.
Yeah.
That's right. So I would say that if the reason that I'm investing in a relationship is solely because I want something from you, I want you to do something or make a decision or do that, I certainly think that is I would say there's a deceptive level to that relationship, manipulative maybe, absolutely. I also though I think our motivations, this is what I would say to a person if that's not you. If you're on the end where you say, hey, that's how I feel like someone did that to me.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That I'm sorry that that's what you felt. And I'm sorry that maybe that even was true. Because one, I want to say both sides of it. Maybe you perceived it that way and that wasn't what it was. And I'm sorry that that's how I felt. I'm also sorry if that genuinely is what happened. It is very possible that's genuinely what happened.
I believe it has happened
Me too.
many, many times.
Me
I
too.
believe it has
So
happened.
on either end of that, I'm sorry that that's your experience. If you're the person on the other end, so let's say you're a believer and you're fearful that, well, I heard it and I didn't even have the idea of trying to talk to my friend about Jesus. Then I heard it in a sermon or I heard someone talk about it and now my motivation's all wonky. What I would say is our motivations are always pretty wonky. I think it's very hard to determine, why do I really do what I do? Why do I really, to try and get deep into, oh, this is because I have a manipulative reason to do it, or because I'm doing it primarily out of love. There are a lot of people who are convinced they're doing something out of love, and that's not fully the reason why they're doing it. There's other things mixed in. At the same time, you may think, I'm doing this because, me talking to my friend about my faith is me trying to manipulate them into believing it. Well, that may not also be true either. You are capable of containing, as they say, containing multitudes. You are able of containing multiple things being true at the same time.
Yeah, motivation is the key.
It is. I think this is one of those cases, as I was thinking about the question, that I think one of the most important pieces for you, if you're the person asking on the side of, I don't want to be a manipulative person.
Right.
And I want to have a genuine friendship. And so my advice is, this is why it's so important. Discipleship is so important because if I spend more time with Jesus, I become like him. And then I do this like him. And I think if you do it like Jesus, I'll put it this way. Do I want my friend to experience life in the kingdom? Well, yes, I absolutely do. But it's because I know what that is. And I know how that's what my friend was made for.
Right.
And I know that that's what God wants for my friend. So I don't think you can ever eliminate that piece.
That's right.
Ever. But what I can eliminate is the feeling of disappointment in that person if they don't ever experience it, or feeling like I have failed in some way if they don't ever convert, or then somehow if, getting frustrated and treating them in any different kind of way. If I'm close to Jesus and I'm doing things in the way of Jesus, then love just is flowing out of me regardless. It goes back to, the rain. God makes the rain and fall on the good and the evil. Doesn't matter. If I become more like him, that's how I'll live.
That's right.
And so I won't catch myself as often being manipulative or being non-genuine to my friend, because the love of Jesus is just flowing out of me towards them.
Well, and I think I think in that same vein, the difference too is there are tactics that are just never acceptable.
Oh yeah.
And so what I would say is, I do think it's very difficult at times to parse out in any given moment. I think so I'll take it from a parenting example. When you're with your kids and they do behavior that is, you can say sinful, or it's bad, or it's disobedient, or it's dishonest, whatever language you want to use. There is a level that it does personally frustrate you. And sometimes it hurts your feelings. There are times it hurts my feelings. And I, as the parent, have to step in and correct it. And then afterwards, sometimes, because maybe your tone was a little harsher than you meant it to be, you start looking back of, did I even think what they did was wrong? Was my motivation wrong? Was this? Well, then when you have to look at it, you have to go, well, Did I say words that were harmful? Well, no, I didn't. Was the tactic I used wrong? I don't know what my motivation was. This idea that I have pure motivations. It's purely this evil motivation of I'm mad and I want to say something to my kid, or I'm just purely loving and I'm only saying this out of that. I think it all gets a little all mixed up together if I have this personal frustration, but I also know that it's not good for my kid to behave this way. So if what I go is I always have to respond to my kids with gentle words, even if I'm giving a consequence, I don't ever get to say, "You're so stupid. Why would you do that?" It doesn't matter if my motivation is a good motivation of I want to try and turn them around on the right track and I'm not even personally frustrated. Or if I'm personally frustrated, if what I said to them was gentle and honest and life-giving, it doesn't matter that I was personally hurt in that moment. And this is what I would say about a person who is trying to witness to my friend. It doesn't matter if my pure motivation is I really want my child to know and love Jesus. If I use guilt-trippy language, it doesn't matter what my motivation was. If I try to, debate you and belittle you down to a point where you agree with me, it doesn't matter if I'm doing it because I do think there are people, and this is the point I would say, I think there may be people who they do use guilt-trippy language, but their motivation is not even this deeply, darkly personal thing. They really genuinely want this person to know and love Jesus, but their tactic is unlike Christ.
And doesn't all that come out of what you see as your role in evangelism?
Sure, maybe, yeah.
I know for me, my views on that have changed over the years, and I think early on I had a sense that, like you mentioned, Nathan, you get a sense from like a church or something saying, go out and here's your sales pitch. Well, that was sort of it. It was like,
sure,
you have a product out there and you've got to get that thing sold.
Right.
And it's on you. And if it doesn't happen, well, that's you. That's your fault. And there's a burden placed on a lot of us Christians to go out and do that. And so if that's the way I view it, of I'm in charge and everything rides on me, well, yeah, I'm going to slip into those kinds of manipulative tactics.
Well, and the other problem with that's really helped me change my mindset on that is, because you're not wrong, I probably have taught that way.
Me too.
I have certainly lived that way at times. The difference is, because I'm good at sales, I can sell things, but you're not selling a relationship with a person.
Nope.
It'd be like me selling somebody on who they've got to remain married to the rest of their life. I can maybe get them to say yes, but that's not ultimately what I wanted. What I wanted is them to have a relationship that was life-giving to them. And that comes down to a misunderstanding of what the kingdom offers.
Right.
Yeah.
Life in the kingdom offers me an opportunity to do, as we've been saying this year, the phrase interactive life with God, that moment by moment. And I don't have any friends that aren't experiencing that, including those who would say they are trying to follow Jesus. I don't have any that aren't experiencing that moment by moment thing in their life, that when I see them struggling, it's not my goal to remind them, it doesn't have to be this way.
Right.
The kingdom is available to you. It is open to you. But when I do the other side of making anyone feel like, and therefore God's love for you or my love for you or my, whatever to you is somehow bound up in your decision in this moment,
Well,
that's and the follow through afterwards. Now, I've spent my life around lots of people who are in addictive kind of situations. Often on that kind, when you're the question said something about an even relationship. Well, it doesn't really matter when I'm in a relationship with a person who is in a state of active addiction or even playing around with it. When I say to them, hey, this doesn't have to be this way, I don't necessarily end the relationship if they decide to stay in their addiction, but their addiction will sometimes pull them away from me as a person to be related to.
Yeah.
So they might view it and go, well, they were only friends with me around the thing. Well, I didn't move. I was still available. I still want, but I'm probably not going to run after you because it's not helpful to you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think to the point that you're saying, even talking about that there, I think it takes me longer. I've told them before, my brain works conceptually first. It's harder for me to get directly to what I'm trying to say. I think when I hear this question, because I know so many people that are in my generation in particular, of people grew up in church, grew up in youth group, had Christian parents, and then they've walked away from the faith, and they feel a lot of this about their upbringing. My parents were a little manipulative in the way they talked to me about it. And there's a way, and this is why I talk so much about the motivation part, there's a way they start putting motivations on people that I don't know you can always do. I think if you can look at it and say that tactic was not good.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
But, I'm trying to scare my kid out of hell. Or I'm trying to, I know people said this. They talked about anyone who didn't believe as if they were morally worse than everyone else and they're bad people. And I hear all those things. But what I know on the other side is someone who now pastors a church who many of the people in the congregation are of that generation, of the parents' generation. Their genuine motivation is I love my kid and I love Jesus and I want them to know, and maybe they were taught a different way, or maybe, as you said, their understanding of the kingdom was not fully developed or mature at the time. And they probably used tactics that were not helpful and may have even created some bad images in your mind of who God was. But to look and say, well, their entire motivation was manipulative, I think it doesn't help us to have a non-judgmental, gracious, Christ-like approach to other people, to always try to get deep into their motivations, or even into my own. Because I know parents who feel insanely guilty about, I said the wrong thing and I did the wrong thing. And then they start thinking, maybe I had bad motivations. And I go, I don't know that there are these just pure evil or pure good motivations. We really are both this saint and sinner mix, in that the closer I get to Jesus, as you said, he does change my motivations, but that takes time.
Yep.
And that takes us, and it's hard to discern sometimes.
Yep.
Is this motivation from Christ or is it from me? And so I said this in the message that I just most recently did, and it wasn't written in there. I just very much felt like I needed to say, which is, once you take certain tactics off the table, which is we're not going to go. And I even had a person recently say to me, is it sinful or wrong to use tracts, where you hand out pamphlets to people? And I said, I wouldn't say, once again, I think using that language of sinful or harmful is not helpful. What I would say is it misunderstands the kingdom. It goes back to a sales pitch approach that what Jesus is sending us out to do is he's just got to get the message out. And it's the law, honestly, it's the law of large numbers. If I can get 1,000 of these into people's hands, 2 people will respond and that will be worth it. And we don't know what happens to the other 998.
Well, and the other thing I know that's true after having pastored for a long time and, not having started my life with Jesus as a young person, well, I was relatively young, but a lot of people who are sold Jesus as a product never get more than the product.
Exactly.
And so that even if you do get 2 or 3 people. I'm not saying that's not 100% true. There are people, because our God is so good and gracious, that when you make any move toward him, even though you did it in a way that may not have been the way he wanted, God is looking for God is trying to do the absolute best for every human being at every single moment that he can. And so lots of people have come into the genuine kingdom through tracts, through bad methods, through things that I've said that I said, a motivation. Often I said because I wanted somebody to think I was smart, or because I was clever, or because I was a great speaker. And that's what my motivation was. I wanted to do good. I'm not saying that was my only motivation.
It all got mixed up together.
But it was all mixed up. That if they went away and thought I was really clever, then, man, I had a winning day.
Or like Jason said, the motivation that gets mixed up is you get convinced the more clever I am, the more people who get it.
That's right.
And it does get all mixed up together. It's not as easy as...
So I I would say on the side, so I guess I would like to talk if there's a disciple there that winds up having either been burnt before they became a follower of Jesus, or they're withholding engaging with people on this because they don't want to be the bad person.
Right.
You really have to, the key to everything is to ask Jesus to help you with this. Jesus, how would you help me engage with my friends? Because there is no one on the planet that would not have a better life if they followed Jesus in every moment of their life, whatever it is, whether it's
including me.
That's exactly right.
That's right.
The moments of my life where I don't include Jesus are not the best moments of my life. And I can see it now more than I ever have. Yeah. And I hope more and more as I get older and older with the Lord. But that has to be my motivation. And so I'm just practically looking for any moment that God's at work. It really stuck with me recently. Steve on our staff had us read this thing in a leadership thing. And the phrase the guy uses, the kingdom of God is at work on his project right under our noses. In fact, I decided to include that little phrase as a part of something I would see all the time, because I have missed that God is working right under our noses. And even for the disciple that's sitting there thinking, I have a genuine friendship, but I don't want them to think I was ever trying to influence them toward anything about Jesus. God is at work in spite of you not wanting to influence anything. It doesn't mean he's going to get it done without you. It doesn't mean that. I believe God picks the times and places that he places us on the planet and the people around us, and that he wants me to have the joy of joining him in his project. And so I just have to say in those moments, Jesus, I love this person and I love you. What is the appropriate way for me and my personality with this person? Because he put you with your personality of you not wanting to hurt them. He put you there on purpose. He knows you don't want to hurt them, but you really need the joy of engaging with him, because it is quite a joy, even when you play a tiny, tiny little part that his hand was with me in that moment.
I think so. I 100% agree with everything you say there. I think the bigger struggle that I experience with believers, and maybe this, I don't want to get into your motivations, but maybe this question is a part of it. I don't think the bigger problem for believers is we are so busy evangelizing people that we're burning tons of people. I know that's constantly like the fear is I'm going to be one of those people. They're going to think I'm a they're a project or whatever to me. But when I really feel convicted, the bigger problem I feel like is that we don't have enough believers who are convicted that God has placed me in the pathway of people who are strangers to me currently, and they should not be so. It really is a strange 21st century problem we have, that the majority of people I lock eyes with in a day are strangers to me. The person that I see in the car next to me, because it's not even been that long that many towns in America were so small, you really did have a general idea of that person's parents or that whatever it is,
Yeah, people will often say to me, I can remember in the South where everybody waved at everybody in the car. Well, that's because you really genuinely knew most of the people in these small southern towns I knew almost everybody.
And so I've told men in my On Mission group, I said, I started making it a thing. I want to lock eyes with every person I can to begin to recognize their face. And so now at the gym I'm at right now, everywhere I go, I'm saying good morning to people. And what's weird is the amount of people who, one, don't say good morning back, or two, don't lock eyes with me, or three, when they do, they seem genuinely surprised that someone said good morning to them. And I said, it feels weird to me that I would be a believer in this planet who believes that God is constantly active in the world around me. He cares about each individual person. He is constantly, the way I use the term, and apparently people find it funny. I don't mean it to be funny, but I say he's promiscuously doing good. He is just constantly pouring out. I don't care who you are. You're getting good. You're getting good. I don't care what's going on. And that I would be made in his image. But my primary thing is, well, I know my kids and I know my coworkers and I know the one or two neighbors that will engage with me. And that's the only people I interact with. I said, I want to be the guy who's going around promiscuously saying good morning to people and hoping one of them starts talking to me, not for the reason of I need them to come to my church, not for the reason of I need to convert them to some belief, for the reason of I do believe fully that Jesus Christ is alive. It's, Stanley Hauerwas, who's one of my favorite theologians, he says the product of rational thinking in the Enlightenment has created a group of Christians who would say Jesus Christ is king, but that's just my opinion. He says, if it is true that Jesus Christ is king, it's no more an opinion than that the United States is a nation, that the kingdom of God. I firmly am convinced Jesus Christ and the kingdom is the truest reality, and that every single person I interact with is someone God is blessing. So my job is just to bless those people. And if I am blessed enough to have a friendship with that person, my motivation is not how do I get them to church. My motivation is not what 7 steps do I have to get to share my personal story about Jesus. My job is to be genuinely curious enough in their life that I could see where God is active. And then I go, how do I join him in blessing them? And what I believe is that with many people, if they have ears to hear and their hearts are open, they will be curious about me. And then they will be the ones pursuing me, and I will do that. And for people who don't, I still just want to love them and know their kids. I told this one up in here I see every Thursday when I go in. I asked her, I said, I've been praying for you every day because I think about the people in my day. I said, I don't know your kids' names. And that shocked her that I would even care to know her kids' names. And she said, oh, well, and here they are. And I said, I'm going to pray for them. She goes, that's strange to me. I said, it's strange to me that you and I would talk every Thursday and I wouldn't know your kids' names. But to most, and it's sad to me that most of my life, I would think it's weird. Mm-hmm. But I don't think God thinks that's weird.
Well, and the other side of that is even if they never want to bless me in return, nor agree with me about Jesus.
Right.
A part of me living in the kingdom of God is I take on family characteristics of God, which is, to use your phrase, promiscuous. I promiscuously bless the people in my world. I want to be known as a person who can bless those who don't bless me, and bless those who do bless me, and bless people who never even remembered I was around.
Right.
But that I become a blessing in my little circle of the world. Whoever wanders into my area of influence, they would be blessed because I am reflecting a God that is his character.
Right.
Yeah. And I think if you get that right, what Ed just said, I think that answers your question. That becomes the kind of what I sense and what you're asking is you want a genuine, loving relationship with people, and you want to strip away all of that ickiness of I've got to get you to think or believe or to do something. Well, that's the answer right there. You strip all of that stuff away when you live that lifestyle of I'm a blessing to those around me, and the rest. That really isn't my purpose.
Right.
I don't want to say that we don't have a responsibility to share the good news. That's not what I mean. But what is the good news? You know what I'm saying?
I become a reflection of it is what the goal, in my opinion. I become a reflection of what God has done for me. I don't withhold from anybody anything. No. So I no longer, and this is not long-term with me, this is recent in the last 2 years or so, I no longer ever hesitate to say to anyone in any situation, I will pray for you. I don't care who they are. I don't care what. I will say, can I pray for you? I'm going to pray for you. How could I pray for you? Which I see as a blessing. I'm not intending to do anything to them with that except good. I believe that I serve a God who only wants good for the world. I want to reflect that to every person that I come, that I also only want good for you. Now, I struggle. There are areas I still struggle. There are things that still tweak my bad nature. And there are situations where I go, right this moment, I do not want good. But, you know.
And will you get frustrated with friends that you're in relationship with? Oh yeah, you're gonna, and that's a part of you growing.
That's right.
And working through that.
That's right.
Well, because I think the hard part, and that's why you have to look at what tactics am I using? Because I think when I say I bless someone not to get them to come to church, ultimately I know that their greatest good is that they would be in a relationship with God. Because I think we have the other side of it too, which is there's entire groups of people that say, you know, if I have a friendship with you, I don't want to try and push any idea on you or any kind of thing. The truth is, I would say that's not a genuine friendship. What I have found in many cases is people who think they have genuine friendships because I don't care how you parent your kids. I don't care how you handle your marriage. What you really want is just people to hang out with so you're less lonely. That's also not a genuine friendship. Just people that I have no expectations of you, you have no expectations of me. That's not a genuine.
If I didn't tell everybody I knew that I think there is a better hamburger than eating at Wendy's.
Well, you use that, but that reminded me of something, Nathan. You use that example.
I like Wendy's, by the way. I didn't mean to criticize Wendy's.
Right.
We believe
we lost our sponsor. But you said, you know, I'm in a relationship with somebody, and I don't care how you parent kids, and I don't care how you do your marriage. That's not a friend to me.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean,
but there are people.
That's not the same thing.
But and I'm not saying this is the person who asked this, but once again, I'm talking about people in my generation that I speak to. They would say, if I'm really your friend, no matter how you parent your kids, I don't care. And I go, I got a lot of friends, and the way they parent their kids drives me nuts, not because their kid is annoying to me, though sometimes their kid is annoying to me. It's primarily because I look at that child who I love, and I go, what you're doing is not setting your child up for a future that is good for, and because I want to bless your kid, this isn't it. Now, what I don't do is every time I'm with my friend go, you're screwing up with your kid. What I do,
and I'm humble enough to say that I'm not perfect either, and I don't know everything.
That's right.
What I do, and I may not even bring it up to many of my friends. What I do is I try to love and bless their kid. I try to love and bless them, and I try to live out in my relationship with my kids what I think would be helpful to them. And occasionally, and I will say, my wife gets it more than I do, probably because she's the better parent. Frequently, other moms will say, I've noticed the way you're doing this, and can you tell me something about, because they become curious about it. But for me to say, in order for me to be genuine friends with someone, I don't even want the opportunity to tell them what I think is better for them. Or if I saw a friend of mine, and I heard someone say this recently, you can't be friends with someone who has racist thoughts. You can't be or racist ideas. Because then that means you're complicit in their racism. Or you can't be friends with someone if they cheat on their spouse, because that's you sticking out. And I go, okay, if what you're saying is what I'm supposed to do is correct it, well, of course, if I saw a friend of mine who I thought was heading towards an affair or said something that was racist, yes, I would be a bad friend not to say, whoa, dude, that was over the line. Or, hey, man, I've seen you getting close to that woman. I'm just telling you, that's a dangerous thing. You're exactly right that I would be a bad friend to do it. The same is true for other things, including faith. So this is where I keep going to. It's the tactics that I use. If I went to my friend who I think is about to have an affair, and I go, do you know how much it would hurt my feelings? I'm your friend, and this really matters to me that you don't cheat on your friend. Well, that's an ineffective. And they go, what's wrong with this dude? He's trying to guilt trip me out of it.
Why is my life bound up in your feelings?
Exactly.
How did I become king of your feelings? Or I take some
moral high ground on my friend and I go, you're a bad person. Because I will say this, just because I've been having lots of conversations about race for a while now, even the thing around racism, when we just say anyone who has prejudiced thoughts, you are now a terrible bad person. it makes the conversation impossible to have. Because what the other person does is go, well, I'm not a bad person, therefore what I think or say can't have been racist. Whereas when instead I come and go, do you know how that thought or that idea you said is harmful to other people? I know you don't mean it to be that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a different way. But lots of us take these moral high grounds, which is not vastly different than Christians coming along saying, if you don't believe in Jesus, you're a bad person.
It is the religious nature of almost, as our country has become less religious, we have become religious about politics.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
We have turned that into a moral play. We've taken all kinds of other cultural stances about sexuality or race and those things, and made them into such moral kind of things that you can't really talk to people about it.
Yes.
Because if you take a position other than theirs,
yes,
you're condemned.
Yes.
I mean, even if it's in a way of, hey, I'd just like to talk about this.
There's a lot of condemnation that goes into it. And so what I would say is, in genuine friendships, I have to care more about you than I do what I get from you. And there's a lot of people I know that call what they have, and I've been there before. And I'm probably there in many relationships. I'm back to humility. I probably have this too. A lot of what I like about my friendship is I got a guy who also likes the Braves, and we can sit and we can talk about the Braves together. And I like that I'm a little less lonely hanging out. Now I got someone to watch with. Don't talk to me about your wife. Yeah. Don't talk to me about, just talk to me about this thing, because that's not a genuine friendship. No. That really is, I need someone to drink with and hang out with and do this with.
Well, and it does miss again, I think the nature from the believer side, it misses. My relationship with Jesus is not as casual. It's a core part of who I am. Or I have also misunderstood it. If I can be in a genuine relationship with you, and you not know that this is really, it's the priority, not a priority. Yes. It is the priority in my life. I have misled you already.
I think so.
Yeah.
And myself.
Sure.
If I can categorize it off into, there's a part of me, I'm a Christian and I cuss a little bit.
Drink a little wine. I drink some wine sometimes.
You know, if I can categorize it that way, I've misunderstood the nature of what God's trying to do in me.
Yeah. All right. That went longer than I expected, but that's okay.
It is okay.
But here's what I'm gonna need to say before we wrap up. Unless y'all send us some questions, this podcast might just grind to a halt.
We may be done.
Yeah, we don't have
that. Was our last question. So
and they've been trickling in lately. So
some come in. We always get them, but sometimes right up to the last moment. So
if 1 week you don't get a podcast, that would be the reason why.
Maybe. So if you got a question, it's burning in your brain. Go ahead and share it. Links in the description. Go ahead and fill that out. Send it in to us, and we'll keep talking. Or if you'd rather us stop.
If you want more 3 Ps in a pod, send questions in. If you don't, we'll take the hint. We're not beyond taking a hint.
I'm humble enough to be okay with that.
Exactly.
We'll be okay. We're all going to sit around and talk about stuff anyway. We just won't record it.
That's all we do.
Right.
Yeah.
We won't force it on anybody else.
There you go.
Even force Charlie to do anything with it.
There you go.
That's right.
All right. So we'll hopefully see you next week. Bye.